everyone, how you doing today? I'm Kirsty and this is the My Heroic TBR game. You've probably seen this game pop up a few times. I created it a few years ago, but I've been very sporadic in actually playing it and using it. So I had a think at the end of last year and I was thinking about whether I would even continue having a TBR game each month, or even if I was going to do TBRs every month. And I decided I at least want to give it a go, see how it pans out, because I did put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this. My drawings are terrible on the board, so I'm not really going to focus too much on those. Essentially, this is a game based off the manga and anime series My Heroic TBR, which is pretty much my all-time favourite series now, which is saying much considering it's competing against classics such as Inuyasha, Rurouni Kenshin and Fruits Basket. And it has blown all of those away for me. I got inspired to do this after Book Roast released her TBR Avatar, which is based off Avatar. And I was like, do you know what, there is such a massive cast of characters within the My Heroic universe. It would be perfect for a game like that. Because it is January, it's the first part of the year, the first sort of 5 to 10 minutes are going to be me explaining the game, what it's about, what the categories are, the rules, etc. So if you already know or you don't care, then you can skip straight ahead to the roles and the actual choosing of the TBR. But if you do care, this is where you need to start listening. As you can see by the board, there are various squares and I've kind of tried to replicate the UA High Towers. And you start off here at the Heroes Entrance Exam and gradually you make your way down the board and you go on to become a hero. Now, when I started the TBR challenge, originally I had the idea of being on a book buying ban, and until I completed the board I wasn't allowed to buy any books. I've since realised that I don't really want to do that because I don't really want to stop myself from buying books, and I never stick to it anyway. So what I've decided is that at the end, when I complete the board, I'm going to do a bonus sort of reward. Now, this may be a reward for myself, or it may be a reward for all of you. There are 4 things. When I complete the board, I will either draw a card or roll a dice, and that will determine which of the 4 things is going to happen. Now, number 1 is an unhaul video, so I have to go through my books and I have to unhaul. I will then roll the d12 that I use for the game, and whatever number that lands on, that's how many books minimum I need to unhaul for that video. Number 2 is a giveaway, so I will host a giveaway of either some books or maybe some of my candles or both to one of you or more lucky viewers. 3 is a Waterstones trip, so I will take myself off to Birmingham one day and go on a Waterstones trip. And then 4 is a book date, so I will pick either the local lakes or Birmingham, or just go into a Costa in town or somewhere that's new, different. Each time I would like to try and go somewhere that I've not been before, and I will take myself off on a reading date. I thought they're just like little things that I don't really tend to do but would be a nice reward for completing this, and I worked out that it should take about 3 to 4 months per round. So, you know, it'll be between 2 and 5 times a year. I just have a little bonus thing that I don't usually tend to do very often, and it'll be nice just to give myself a little bit of a reward and a little bit of fun. In terms of the actual rules and the gameplay, I have created a bunch of character cards. I went through every single thing that I could with My Hero Academia, and I separated into 6 categories, which I'll go through in a second. But then I went through and I found every single character that I could that would fit these, as well as various other things that will come in. And I then decided on prompts that would fit. So the categories that I have chosen in terms of my TBR genre bookish things, we have YA fantasy, adult fantasy, romance, contemporary, sci-fi / miscellaneous, and graphic novels and manga. And then I also had different types of things within the universe. So we have UA staff, UA students, Class 1A, pro heroes, villains, and then events and blank. So I'm going to explain how these all match up now. I've gone with Class 1A will be YA fantasy. Pro heroes is adult fantasy. The UA staff are romance. Villains are sci-fi and miscellaneous. UA students are contemporary. And then events will be graphic novel and manga. And then I have one final category, which is a blank category. And these were characters or things that happen that don't fit any of the other categories. So they're going to be wild cards. I can read whatever I want. They just have to match the prompts. For example, I'm just going to find a card. And here we have the pro hero horse. At the bottom of the card, I put a little P for pro hero. That means I will get bonus points if I read an adult fantasy. Because the idea of this game is that for every book I complete, I get to move a step forward the following month. And then if I manage to match the category to the genre, then I can get a bonus one. Some of these are going to be very, very difficult because I came up with the prompts before I decided on the different categories. So there are some that are very much sci-fi that have been put in romance or contemporary, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't think that one through. There are various symbols across the board that have different prompts and different things that I get to do. I'm going to explain those as I get to them rather than go through them all now, otherwise we will be here for the next 30 minutes. But two things that I do want to explain. There is a little hand grenade symbol which represents Bakugo and is the go to hell jar. So in Book Roast's game she has the cabbage pot because of the cabbage guy. In my game we have go to hell because it's a kind of Bakugo's catchphrase. And so I have the go to hell jar. Anytime I've got a book that's been sat on my TBR for far too long, I'm intimidated by, or I'm not even sure I'm going to enjoy, or I just keep forgetting I own, I write them down on a slip of paper. As you can see, there's a lot. And then if I land on the go to hell, I have to draw from here, and that becomes one of my prompts for the month. And if I don't read from the go to hell jar, if I do draw from it and I don't read that book, I have a double punishment the next month. So it's even more incentive to get those books read. And then the final one, there are a number of stars dotted across the board. Each one of these stars means that I need to, instead of drawing a prompt, I roll a d4, and it's another way to try and encourage me to be mindful about what I'm picking. So if I get a 1, I have to read an audiobook, a 2 is an ebook, a 3 is a book that is from any of the reading challenges that I want to be doing this year, like the 52 and 52 or Beat the Backlist. And 4 is a book off the self-destruct list that I recorded and posted in December. So it's just a way to try and remind me that I do have those extra books that I want to get to each year. So the actual rules of the game, every month I'm going to be rolling 6 times. I've worked out that I, on average, read between 7 and 8 books a month. So I figure if I do 6 rolls, that'll then leave me 2 books free to just read whatever I want, have more of a mood read, because I do want to build more mood reads into my reading habits. Any month that I'm doing another readathon, I will probably not be doing the My Hero Academia game. I will just focus on whatever readathon I'm doing that month. And yeah, so like I said, there will be 6 rolls a month. Every month I'm allowed to choose one of the prompts to swap out for another one if I don't like the prompt that I drew. Every completed book is 1 step forward, every uncompleted is a step back. If they match the category prompt, that is 2 steps on the board. For every 3 books I don't read, I have to add an extra book on the following month. So maximum of those 2 slots that I said were for mood reads. If I don't read well the month before, I will lose both of those mood reads and I have to draw extra prompts. But on the flip side, for every 3 books I do complete, I then am allowed to choose to draw 1 less card. So like I said, normally 6 rolls. If I read all 6 books in January, then for February I can choose to only draw 4 if I wanted to do more mood reading for that month, or because it's a shorter month, maybe I'll take a book off so I don't have as many books to try and get through. And I just thought that's a nice way of adding sort of punishments without actually making my reading suffer for it. I'm still going to have a pleasant reading experience. It just means that I'm not putting as much pressure on myself as I've done in previous years. As this is like the first month and I'm explaining everything, this might all sound very convoluted and confusing, but I promise once we actually get into the game and start playing it, you will understand and it will make way more sense. And probably next month when I've done the first month, that's when everything will probably make the most sense. That's the game explained. Now we're going to go on and pick our January rolls. So here is the first of the rolls for January 2023. So here is the board, ready and primed for us to start our very first roll of 2023. Let's go! Very first roll is a 5. And we have immediately landed on a special square, which is awesome. And that is Lemillion, which is to read a book that has sold over 1 million copies. So for January, I already had a few books that I wanted to get in on this list. First of all, I'm starting to do a thing now where I've got various book club books. So every month I'm writing down what those books are. And Daughter of the Moon Goddess is on one of them. So I definitely wanted to get that on there. Wishstress I knew was going to be the first book I wanted to start reading this year, so that wanted to go on there. And I've already started Hooked by ACY, so I wanted to include that. And then finally we have Priory of the Orange Tree that I'm buddy reading with Chloe. So I wanted to get each of those 4 books in on the list somewhere. And with roll number 1, I drew a book that sold over 1 million copies. I wasn't yet sure if Priory had, so I didn't include it there, but I had it narrowed down eventually to 2 books, which were Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard and The Guilty Pleasures, which is the Anita Blake series, book 1 by Laurel K. Hamilton, because I don't know if that individual book has, but I know the series has sold well over 1 million. And I've decided to go with a reread of the Anita Blake series because I do want to get a bit further. I think in the past I've only ever gotten to like book 2 or 3. So I would like to give this series more of a go this year, especially as I've nearly done with my Nalini Singh reread. And as much as I want to go back and restart it again, I will not. Roll number 2 is a 1. Just a single little square. So with that, we are on a blank, which means our very first card has to be pulled. And our first card of 2023 is Uraraka, a book set in space. Roll number 2 was to read a book set in space, and I kept looking at Gideon the Ninth, but I was like, I'm not ready for that yet. So I eventually decided it's time to finish The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Schreffer. I started this last year. I didn't get around to finishing it. It's been on multiple TBRs since, and I don't know why. I just have not gotten to this. I'm not even halfway through it yet, so I don't yet know if I'm going to restart it or just pick it up from where I left off and count it as a 2023 read. So I will decide, but that is going to be my pick for set in space. Roll number 3. Is a 9. With that, we have a blank, and we have Mount Lady, read a hardback. This prompt was the easiest of all of the prompts because I knew I wanted to get Wishstress, which is a hardback, so I literally just went Wishstress, done, hardback, perfect. It worked so well. So that was the quickest and easiest choice of any of these. Roll number 4 is also a 4. We have another blank, and our next card is Battle Against All for One. So to read a book featuring a major war or battle. I had to Google this to find out because the book annoyingly doesn't have a blurb, but thankfully I managed to fit Priory of the Orange Tree into this because this is set in a land that has a war going on between the nations, and there's like, I think it's got a religious war aspect to it, so definitely fits and is perfect because, as I said, I will be buddy reading this with Chloe throughout January, even though I'm already way behind. Roll number 5 is a 7. And we have landed on the very first star, which is the brand new introduction to the game. So for this, as I said, I have to roll a d4, and whatever the d4 tells me is what I have to read. And we've landed on a number 3, which is to read a book that I plan to put towards one of my reading challenges for the year. For this one, I decided to go with a book that I'd already started and is Hooked by A.C. Wise. I can't remember exactly which prompt this one fits, but I do know that this is a book that fits in various prompts in both the 52 in 52 and Beat the Bat list. So this is basically killing 2 birds with 1 stone, which is awesome. And then our final roll of January 2023 goes to... Ooh, we have an 11 as our final number, which means we will be finishing January on a blank, and we're about halfway through the first column, so going by that should be about 4-ish months before we get to our first proper reward. And we have Yayorozu with a book with the idea of creation, so new life, inventions, etc. Every month, as I said, I am allowed to choose 1 prompt per month to redraw. For this one, I am going to go with a book with the idea of creation, so new life, inventions, etc. I'm going to discard that one and redraw Best Genist and the best looking book on your shelf. And then for my final book, I was really happy with this one because it's obviously the prettiest book, or the flashiest book. I can't remember the exact wording because I haven't got the cards with me right this second. But either way, it's sort of related to essentially the prettiest book on my shelf, and I couldn't not go for Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I think this is the most beautiful cover. I do prefer the Fairy Loot edition where it was more purple than pink, but this is still absolutely gorgeous. I love it to pieces, and it was also one of the books I really wanted to get onto this TBR because of the Buddy Book Club reads. And then that leaves just 1 book that I can do for my mood read, and obviously it's a mood read. I haven't yet picked it. I will pick it when the mood takes my fancy. But that is my TBR complete for the year. That is my TBR game set up for the year. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you do any sort of TBR game each month. Let me know. Please feel free to also post a link for other people to check it out. And yeah, I hope your TBR for January goes well. I hope your reading's been going well so far. Mine has been a little bit slower than I'd hoped, but yesterday I did read 200 pages over 2 books. So I think I'm starting to finally pick up the pace a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to go. I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.